Hello, welcome to the Level 1 or Beginning Pipe Bending series. This video will get you started on your pipe bending journey. I will show you how to use the pipe bender, how to mark out your pipe benders, and I will then show you some basic bends to get you started. I am going to be teaching you how to bend copper pipe using a scissor bender. So this scissor bender has got two sides to it. So one side you can bend 22mm pipe, and the other side you can bend 15mm pipe. So let me just quickly show you what I mean. So put your pipe in place, and you bend it to your desired angle, or 22mm pipe. Bend it to your desired angle. Okay. Right, so it's a lot quicker to bend a piece of pipe than it is to solder it. Cost, there's no fittings. It's a cost, no fittings needed, to save them money. Resistance, so with this, the water comes in, or gas, a lot of resistance. With here, there's a lot less resistance, a lot easier for the water or gas to flow around. Here there's two joins, two leak potentials, and also this looks a lot nicer in my opinion than seeing bits of solder sticking out. Let's talk about parts of the scissor bender. So it's got two sides to it. One side is for bending 15mm pipe, and one side is for bending 22mm pipe. Right, so let's look at the 15mm pipe side first. So we got the former, because it forms the shape. We've got a stop, we've got a roller, and we've got to use the 15mm guide for this. So we just put the pipe in, put the stop on, and it's ready to bend. These are well handles. Make sure your pipe bender has got rubber feet in it, because otherwise it could dig into someone's wooden floor or carpet and damage it. And we use our body weight to bend the pipe. We just leverage like this. Like this, okay? It's wrong to be doing this. Only do this if you're the Incredible Hulk or Jeff Capes, if you're old enough to know Jeff Capes. Like this, never use that. Always use your weight, okay? And then same with the other side. If you need to bend 22mm pipe, just swap the guides. So put it in the 22mm side. Make sure you put the stop on, and use your body weight just to bend it like this. It's actually virtually impossible to bend 22mm pipe like this. The mistake students do make is they forget to put the guide in, and then your pipe gets ruined. End up. Okay, so always remember to use your 15 and 22mm guides. Right, now I'm going to show you how to mark out your pipe bender with the most important marks you will need for pipe bending. And the marks I'm going to show you will cover your beginner, by eye, advance, all the bends you will need. So let's do that now. I'm going to put my pipe into the vise though, because it's easier to show you. Right, so the first mark you need to know in your pipe bender is where the actual bend starts in the former, so where the actual bending happens. This is a useful reference to know. Right, so what we do is we get ourselves a pen and we put some pipe in. So we have to do it. We're going to focus on the 15mm side, and It'll be exactly the same for the 22mm side. And you draw a line all the way round, like this, like this, like this. We then take it out. And what we're after is the deepest part. So the line here, this is the deepest part. This is where the actual bending process is starting to happen. So what we then do, we put this back in line where we took it out, and we put a mark here. We're going to call that SOB, start of bending. So that's where the actual bending starts to happen. That line all starts to, as you can sort of see there, I've done it a little bit over, it starts to curve. So now we're going to be marking out the angles, the most common angles you will need for your pipe bending journey. So we're going to be marking out the 30 degree, 45, 60 degree and 90 degree marks on the pipe bender. So what it basically means is when the middle of the pipe touches that line and that line, that's the desired angles we need. But these marks are they're not 100% accurate. So let me show you. So in this particular case, when the middle of the pipe touches the first mark on this particular bender, that's 30 degrees. And then when you keep going, and you move it a bit more, that's 45 degrees. Some pipe benders don't have any marks on at all. So let's look at a pipe bender with no marks on at all, and let's focus on that for the minute. Right, so for example, this pipe bender here doesn't have any marks on at all whatsoever. It doesn't mean it's rubbish, it just hasn't got the marks on. So in this case, what we do, we print ourselves off a protractor, and we get ourselves a folding ruler of some sort, like this. Right, so the first angle we're going to be looking at is 30 degrees. That's the first important angle we need. So what we do, set the folding ruler to 30 degrees, which is there, is we bend the pipe. But again, folks, when we mark out our bender, these are just like rough guides, okay? They just sort of help to get you. All right, let's have a look. That's 30 degrees there. Is we then get ourselves a ruler and we scratch along the middle of the pipe. So there's a line along the middle of the pipe. And what we then do is we then follow this line, so there, like that. Okay, like that. Okay, so if you can sort of see it, I've scratched here, and that line. Okay, so that's your first mark, so that's your 30 degree mark. There. So when the middle of the pipe touches there, that's 30 degrees. So when the middle of the pipe touches like the black line, that's your required angle. I've just gone back to the original pipe bender with the marks on, and the reason being it's got a flatter surface area, so it's easier to show you bits and bobs. Right, let me just show you how not accurate these marks are, but they're good to get you in the right place, but they're not 100% accurate. So let me just show you. So 90 degrees. So if you scrape the middle of the pipe, 90 degrees there, but when you look at the actual mark in the middle of the pipe, it's a little bit out. Okay, so when you do assessments, always double check your work using like a folding ruler or something like I do. Right, so what I then like to do next, so I know that this is 90 degrees here. I'm going to, another little top mark, which I like to do, is bring a little line there, like that. So that line, like that, 90 degrees. Okay, so my new line, when the middle of the pipe is in line with this bit, I know it's 90. There's a reason I like to do that, and I'll show you later. Okay, right, nearly there with the marking out. Right, so the next marks we need to add are the centre of the bending points. Right, so what we need to do is we need to know the centre of the 30 degree bend, 45 degree bend, and the centre of the 60 degree bend, which is there, 30 degrees. And what you then do, so on your pipe bender, you have the folding ruler touching two spots on the former. Just touching the former, 1, 2, and it's also straight with the pipe. Okay, so touching, and it's in line with the pipe. If it's touching the former 1, 2 parts, it's also in line with the pipe. So it's touching like that. Touching, but not in line with the pipe. Just touching, but not in line. Just touching in line, like that. Is where the two rulers intersect, which is there. That mark is the centre of a 30 degree bend. So we've got the centre of a 30 degree bend, the centre of a 45 degree bend, and the centre of a 60 degree bend. Okay, so that's all the marks you need to do successful pipe bending. Right, so folks, what you can do as well is, if your pipe bender hasn't got any marks on, once you're 100% happy with the markings, what you can do is you can then use a, but only do this once you're 100% happy, so 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 degrees. But only do this once you're 100%, you've tested it and you've confirmed that it's accurate, because there's no going back. Like that. So when you bend your pipe, that's when it touches there. That's a 45 degree mark. like that. Another little tip, folks, just when you're starting out pipe bending, if you mark here, when you bend the pipe to whatever angle, if you then need to bend it some more, you can put it back in exactly the same spot and continue your bend like that. Let's have a look at an example. We have been required to bend a 45-degree bend with the centre of the bend being 120 mil this way and 130 mil this way. The piece of pipe we have got is 130 plus 120 is 250 millimeters long. Right, so what we do first is we measure is we measure 120 millimeters. Right, so what we now do is 120 mil side. We want this to be the fixed side, so we put this on the side that touches the stop. So this side won't move. Right, what we then do is earlier on we marked out the centre of a 45-degree bend, which is there. So we line up that line to that line there, and we then put the guide in. Okay. Right, so what we now need to do now is the middle of the pipe needs to touch that line there, but that's only a rough guide, so we're going to aim it roughly. We're going to get it near there. But when we get a bit closer to 45, we're just going to slow down and verify it with our folding ruler, because we're a college and we like to get our work 100% accurate, don't we? Just there. Just release it a bit, see how far it's popped out a little bit, if it's moved a bit, and then just do it again. So now, to me, that is exactly 45 degrees, like that. We'll then take our work out. And go to our jig, that's the centre of the bend there. Push it all in. So, like that. So 120 mil, centre of the bend, 130, so 250. So that's that one. Next one we're going to look at, we've got 250 mil of pipe, 120 mil into the centre of the bend, and then 130 mil from the centre of the bend that way. So what we do, same as before, measure 120 mil, is there. Measure 120 mil, like that. So we want 120 mil to be this side, touching the stop so it won't move. Because we're bending it 30 degrees, we line up the mark to the 30 degrees, and we then put the guide in, ready to bend. And again, in case you've forgotten how I got that mark, it was just literally folding ruler, touching, and whether to intersect is there. And just like before, we now aim to bend the centre of the pipe to here, but once we get near it, because we're being assessed and it's a college, we're going to go really slow just to verify the bend. So it's got to go a little bit more. Take the ease off a bit on the pressure. Let's say about there. Like that. Put it in the jig. Put it in the jig. There you have it, 120mm to the centre and 130mm. Okay, so that's that one. Right, the next one we're going to look at is we're required to bend a piece of pipe. So from the end to the middle of the pipe is 150mm, and from the middle, then from the middle of this pipe to the end is 200mm. Right, so to do this, we've got a piece of pipe 350mm long. Right, so what we do first is we measure 150mm. There. So we've measured 150mm there. Right, so what we do, we put our pipe into the pipe, bend to the fixed side. We want 150mm to be this side, touching the stop side so it doesn't move. Right, what we then do is, if you remember earlier, when we marked out our pipe bender, we drew a 90-degree line here. So that's where the centre of the pipe will go when you bend it 90 degrees. We want this line to be in line with this line. We just wiggle it along like this. Like that. We just wiggle it along like that. Like that. Bend it up there. Right, but what we can also do, okay, we can also just verify this using a square because we want to be 100% accurate. So we're going to, so if that's what 90 degrees is going to look like when it's bent, because if that's 90, that's going to be 90. And the middle of that line is on the middle of the pipe, so that is correct. When we get near to the crucial point, so when this gets near, so when the middle gets near to here, we're going to slow down, but we're going to verify it with a square. So to me, that could go in a little bit more. So I'm just releasing it a little bit as well, and so I'm looking at the angle when I've released the pressure a bit. So to me, that could go in a little bit more. So set to 90 degrees because we want to be. So what I'm doing now, I'm bending it. I'm just releasing it a little bit as well, and so I'm looking at the angle when I've released the pressure a bit. So to me, that could go in a little bit more. So I'd say like that. If you look at the line we drew earlier, that's right. We then push the pipe into the jig to have a look. Okay, so it's lining up there. That's all lining up. The only thing we got to do now, we've just got to cut it there, which is there. So interesting, when you bend a 90 degrees, it cuts a corner and it grows. So we're going to now just cut off where it's grown. Put it back into the jig. Job done. So 3 basic bends at level 1. So doing these bends and marking out your bends is crucial because doing this, it will make doing the passover easy because that's basically a 60-degree, 30-30, an offset, 90-degree, semi-passover, passing over a block. It will make it all really easy. Now you know how to bend copper pipe. It's your turn to have a go.